You're telling my secrets, bro.
Oh, this shit works. In your 20s, you're gonna get your ass beat. You gotta find out how to work the system, do your best, get the information that you get out.
What exactly do you mean by that?
I see a pattern in every successful person I've seen. There's no hack around that.
No matter what I was doing, I knew that I was supposed to be doing more. I was just delaying it.
Accept that truth, and then you keep moving forward.
I used to smoke a shit ton of weed. In full honesty, way too much.
Your body doesn't know the difference between bad or good. It just knows habit.
And through journaling, I was able to identify that formula starts with... Welcome back, everybody, to the #1 podcast in the world. I'm here, your host, Kel Madi, and I got a very special treat for you guys today. It's JD Will, Jordan Williams himself, who's not necessarily a master at online business, but he is a master at social media content creation. And most importantly, Jordan Williams is a master at becoming a master of yourself. So if you're interested in self-development, social media content creation, by the end of this episode, you'll know exactly what steps you need to take to become the best possible version of yourself. So without further ado, Jordan Will, my brother, thank you so much for coming on. How you doing today, my man?
Doing amazing. Absolutely amazing, especially after a 2-mile run.
Yeah, so let's get started off hot, man. You're the self-development king. You're a master of yourself. Tell them what you did just this morning, right? It's about 11 a.m. right now. We're starting off this podcast episode. Most people are maybe only 3 hours into their day, but let's talk about the Jordan Will lifestyle here.
I would say to start, first, starting out with like a lot of excitement in the morning. So waking up, it's so easy to wake up for me just because I feel like there's so many things in the day that I want to do. So it's like, I just get excited. So it was about maybe like 5:30. Circadian rhythm is pretty on point right now because the sun rises pretty early, especially coming around spring and summertime. So that wakes me up naturally. So I love that. And then I'm thinking about the runs that I'm having. So 8 a.m. every Saturday morning, I'm going to be running minimal 2 miles and then 2 miles plus. So this morning we ran 2 miles by the beach, the lake area in Chicago. Negative ions are produced by big bodies of water. That's another pro tip. There's a lot of just small pro tips that just help you just naturally get your mind and body and motion going. So all these just add up to like a just great start to your day. It's not doing too much of a morning routine or anything. It's really just getting up and getting active and then getting things going so you can get your mind going and everything just in flow. So that's what we got going.
Yeah, it sounds like you get very deep on a lot of like simple topics, for lack of better words. And what I mean by simple is it's things that everybody looks at, right? Like running, for example, or more importantly, sleep. As we both know, sleep is king. You mentioned your circadian rhythm is dialed in right now. What exactly do you mean by that? And what the fuck is circadian rhythm?
Right, circadian rhythm. So it's like, it's kind of like your sleeping rhythm. So when the sun goes up and the sun goes down, your body is just naturally, it gets adapted to the sunlight and what goes on with that. So at night, I sometimes will stay up a little bit because there's a lot of things I still want to get done in the daytime and the nighttime. So I'm young, so I feel like I can have a good amount of 6 to 8 hours of sleep depending. Okay. You're not always going to get 8 hours. I feel like you can choose your days where you get more sleep than other days.
Got you.
But when the sun rises, I feel like you should be up. You should be up and going. It's just so nice because the sun gives you much more energy than you think. People are behind computers all day, behind phones all day, behind screens, in dark rooms, which is nice. It can be nice at certain times, but you need to step outside. You can't neglect that you are human, made to be what you are for the past, who knows, hundreds of thousands of years. And everything that's technology is still relatively new in the last 100 years. So we're not adapted to being behind screens so long, even though I can be behind a screen for 8-10 hours in a day, for 3-4 days straight. So I understand too, but certain days you got to pick and choose to when you're like, all right, I need to get outside and everything. Can you cuss?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I need to get my ass outside and get my shit going.
Got you. Yeah, man. I think getting up and active in the morning is one thing that I found is the biggest difference maker, especially at the start of your day. Do you journal?
Yes. Obviously, if you can see right now, I do have always a journal with me. It's for me, it's my no rules journal. I don't want any rules in this journal. There's a lot of rules you're going to see in your life, and you're going to put rules on yourself. So your planners, your tasks and everything. But I just want a journal where I can journal absolutely anything, any lessons, any business ideas, which it's a lot of business and content. Yeah. But sometimes I need to step back and realize all right, I gotta be a human too. So I need to give time to doing that as well. So no rules.
I think without realizing it, I also took a very similar approach to journaling when it comes to just no rules, right? I basically I have my journal too as well. It's right back here. And what I do is I just talk about like what's going on, right? So like sometimes my journal for the day is just one sentence, right? Other times, like what I like to focus on is how I'm feeling and the things that I did, which can equate to how I am feeling on that specific day. The reason that I brought up journaling when it comes to like being active in the morning is because when you start journaling, it's almost as if you're building research and data on yourself, right?
Yes.
So like for an entire month of journaling, after you go back at the end of the month and go through those journals that you had written, you can start to identify like, okay, when I did these things, I had a great day and I was feeling amazing. When I didn't do these things, I was pissed off for a reason that I couldn't even figure out, and I just had a less productive day. And one of the key things that I was able to identify and highlight when it comes to like having the best day possible, right, is like that was the formula I was trying to figure out, is what's the formula for Kel Madi's amazing day? Like, what is that formula? And through journaling, I was able to identify that formula starts with, number one, waking up early, because when I sleep in, I get pissed off that I slept in and I can't get over it. And then number two, getting active. Like every single great day I've ever had started with a workout.
Yeah.
And that's just fact of the matter. So like if I want to have a great day, I'm going to start with the first thing that I've done to have a great day the majority of the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily know the science behind it, but getting active in the morning gives me a win first and foremost. And you wake up feeling groggy and tired and shit. It's impossible to feel that way after working out. You know, you walk out of the gym, even if you only got 3 to 4 hours of sleep, you're feeling good. Do you know the science behind it as to like why getting active in the morning actually like, number one, wakes you up, but also gets your day started off on the right way?
So I have 2 points on this. So the first point is I do know minimal science. I mean, because like everything's accessible through technology. So if I want to look it up and I want to find the answer, I'll just ask ChatGPT, Perplexity, any of these AI technologies, and it'll give me the answer right off rip. From the past, I know it just gets your blood flowing and get your mind awaking, and it feels like you're getting the cobwebs out of your mind, which you have like every time you go to sleep. But on that topic as well is if you feel good and if something works for you and you know it's been proven, sometimes you don't care. You shouldn't care about the numbers. You shouldn't care about the science. You're like, all right, like I know this shit works.
Right.
Cool. Like let me start like keep replicating it. And then maybe every once in a while you'll dive in to be like, oh, like why does it work or anything? But sometimes focusing too much on science and numbers about every single detail in your life isn't the best, because I've done it. Your curiosity will kick, you know, being young, curiosity kicks so much. But if something works, it's just like, all right, cool. Like I'm a stick to that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stick that till I hear somebody else bring another story of what works for them, then I'll try that. But yeah, it's just definitely about getting blood flow and getting like awaken in the morning versus that groggy feeling. God, because you know how that is. Like when you try to do a task and that groggy feeling, like it feels like you're holding your own self back and you're just putting so much mental strain at such an early point in the day. It's like, I don't like this.
Yeah, honestly, I think that when it comes to trying to understand the science behind some of these things, I guess that's very important if you want to teach it to someone or teach it to 100%. A large group of people. But when you're trying to just figure out yourself, I mean, keep it simple, stupid. You know what I mean? Like the journaling, it was simple. I go back and I'm writing about every day. I look at a day where it's like, I woke up feeling like shit today. I was trying to get all these things done, but I wasn't productive. But then I see that I didn't write that I woke up at 5 a.m. and I went to the gym. And all the days that I write about how great I did go to the gym. So it's just simple for me, right? I see that when I do X, Y, and Z, it equals a great day. So why would I not do it? And the same thing goes for things that I saw I did when I had a bad day. Like, for example, I noticed in my journal sometimes, anytime I wrote that I woke up feeling really groggy, or I didn't go to the gym right when I woke up and I just had a later start to my day, I was also eating a meal very close to my bedtime the day before. Now, there is a science to explain that. I've heard it in the Huberman videos and this, that, and the other, but the science doesn't really matter. What matters is I'm literally like tracking how it made me feel, and that's all the data that I need to make a better decision to just simply not do that.
So you want to know a thing about that? So it's crazy that like, obviously Huberman's a great person to listen to content for, but what we know a lot about is consumption of information versus action. And sometimes you really need to take action and actually figure out yourself. And one of the areas, like you said, you're like, I need to see what works for me and like what works. So this is what I would recommend everybody to do. Caffeine hits everybody's bodies differently. Sleep, circadian rhythms hits everybody's body differently. So one thing I've tested out for myself is different caffeines. So teas, coffees, lattes, black coffee, nootropics is something I've tested out too. At different points of the day. So early in the day, midday, late in the day, just see what works for my body. Cause my body, like I'm caffeine sensitive. So like, that's something that another person doesn't have. So that, and your sleeping, your times of eating. So I know when I eat pasta in midday, that's a no, because I get so tired, and the carbohydrates at midday can definitely like pull that out of you. But some people can do it. If you can do it, then don't listen to somebody else that says don't do it if it's working for you.
Right.
So especially the eating at night, like you were saying, you're like, I didn't like that. And so it's like, I don't eat late at night either, but like, then cool. Like we're the same at that point right there. So that's, you learn from that and you just go like, cool, like I don't want to do that again. Of course we're going to fall into it a few times, but that's also another tip is like, it's not 0 to 100% always. It's like, you know what, let me give, I'm gonna get 70% right. But that's so much better than like 0% of like, and being so mad at yourself constantly.
Yeah.
So that's another thing is like, if you go 5 days a week with doing exactly what you did to 100% and you let yourself, get a little flexible, not like complete lose yourself, but get a little flexible on the weekends, you still get that drive of like, cool, like I can go back Monday and give the 100%. Yeah. So that's some methodologies I've read about. And I was like, I put to practice and I'm like, oh, this shit works.
Yeah. So there's two big things that I caught there. Number one is like, would you agree that we're both basically saying that awareness matters more, self-awareness to be specific, matters more than education when it comes to self-development? Like learning why you should sleep at certain times and how circadian rhythm works. Not that it's not beneficial, it is, especially if you want to teach it to people. But when it comes to developing yourself, being self-aware and assessing yourself could be more valuable, for me it is, than educating myself on those topics. Would you agree?
I would go a little step further, and this is something I've been trying to test out myself. So usually I'll have theories, and then I'll try to test it out in my own day and just like ask others and see how their stories align with what my experiences are too. And I think it's self-awareness before education. So it's like you self-awareness, see what works for you, and then educate it, like try to get education on it, be like, oh my gosh, I definitely resonate with that. I have my own personal story so I can relate to that. Or you don't agree with that. So you're just like, actually, I don't agree with that because it didn't exactly align for my personal experiences, which is great because then you have actual stories to like go off of. And then the next step is you go back to the action of like the self-awareness.
I find myself a lot of the times like wanting to do things out of pleasure, right? And then looking at someone else and saying like, well, they do it and it works for them and it doesn't cause the side effects it causes for me. So maybe I'm just being too aware and like I can basically just ignore it, right? But you're looking at it from the standpoint of, okay, everybody is different, take in the feedback in a certain sense from everyone, but almost choose what you want to absorb or not based off of your self-understanding.
Man, I actually, hold up. Can I take my phone out real quick?
Of course, bro. Yeah.
I got a nice quote for this one. I'm thinking about getting it tattooed. Usually not a lot of quotes can stand a lot of different situations. It's always broken by situations like, I guess that doesn't apply. But this quote seems to apply with almost all situations I've encountered so far. It's by Bruce Lee. It's absorb what is useful, disregard what is useless, and add what's specifically your own. So absorb what is useful. So when you're getting stories, getting feedback from what you're doing, discard what is useless. So information right now can be useful one day, but useless another day, or it can be useful for one situation for one person, but not useful for you. So disregard it because it's too much information, and then add what is specifically your own. And that's the whole like purple cow method where that's what makes you stand out. Yeah. So it's literally that now you're going to think about that. You're going to be like, oh my God, that is so good. Because I think about that all the time. And look, it comes up in situations like this. I'm like, you know what? That does help a lot. So that's like a quote that I keep seeing over and over and over again. And I'm like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's a very aligned quote with what we're talking about for sure. So the second thing that I caught there was that when you're trying to assess yourself, you by doing things like journaling, for example, and simply just trying to be aware, you can avoid almost like taking an emotional response towards the negative things that you're doing because you're looking at yourself kind of like a project, right?
Yeah.
I said this a lot growing up that like I am a business. Like me, my body, my performance is a business. And it's probably because like I've always been business oriented, so it's the easiest way for me to understand it. But what I mean is that, like, let's say I have a business, right? And one of my metrics in my business is just not performing the way that it typically does. Business owners don't usually just blow up, oh, what the fuck? Like, this is fucked, you know, like, I'm just gonna stop doing X, Y, and Z. But that's what we do for ourselves a lot of the time. Like, before I started journaling and just taking this open awareness development perspective, I would wake up late. For example, let's say I woke up at 9 instead of 5. Mm-hmm. And then I would be pissed the fuck off that I woke up at 9, that I didn't go to the gym, that I have a meeting in 30 minutes. And it would ruin my whole day. Like, literally ruin my whole day.
Yeah.
And cause me to have, like, the most least productive day possible versus just waking up and, oh, shit. Like, all right, well, let me just figure out why this happened. Mm-hmm. And let me see if I can change the variables around to equal a better day, not just tomorrow, but also the rest of today, right? So what do you think about that mindset of, like, beating yourself down and turning it into more negatives versus, like, having that open awareness mindset that allows you to improve? And do you also relate to the comparison between that self-development and, like, how you can operate a business?
Oh, I love these questions, actually. I'm going to approach it in a couple facets. I'm going to flip it first for the early birds and the non-early birds, because I want to give a shout out to my tech individuals, because I have some tech friends that work night hours. So night owls, and, like, that's your creativity. So sometimes it's not all about waking up at 5 if you're putting in your amount of hours of productivity. It could be work. It could be something that's helpful to you, something that's, like, getting you in the direction you want to get in. We can say work, but sometimes it can feel fun. You know, like, this can be considered work, but, you know, we're enjoying this. Yes. Yeah, or else we wouldn't be doing it. So some tech people, you know, they stay up till like 4 a.m. because that's their night hours where they're producing so much work. So if they're waking up at like 11, 12, then that's so acceptable for them, because they'll wake up that time, but they'll get cracking at maybe, like, you know, 2, 3, or 4, or 5 and just go straight for like 12, 14 hours and just love it. But on the flip side, for, you know, people like us, like, waking up early, that's what the motion we're on right now. Sometimes you don't wake up early, and don't beat yourself up about it too much, because this is another lesson that I've learned too, is just because you started the day off bad you have so many more hours to win. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I encourage some people like that too. Like, I'll see they've had a bad day in the beginning. It's like, they're like, shit, and, like, just down about it. It's like, all right, like, cool, you took an L now, but imagine you have all these minutes and hours the rest of the day to flip that script, because, like, it's 24 hours, dog. Like, just, like, let's just grind it out the best way possible. Yeah. Or you don't even have to grind. Sometimes you can just flip the switch and something good happens and attach to that. Yeah. And then one methodology I had, I played college football too. So that's where a lot of this came.
D1, baby.
It was D1. But the 24-hour rule. So when you win, this happens usually when you win, because when you lost, you just immediately move on. But you reflect, but you move on as quick as possible. But when you win, you get the 24-hour rule. So you get 24 hours to kind of celebrate and get comfortable with what you did, and celebrate like your accomplishments as a team, as an individual, what you did. So with that being said, it's like, through that, I feel like I have a 24-hour rule where every morning is a reset for me. Like, I don't care what happens the day before. You can wake up at 11 a.m. and you're like, holy shit, I meant to wake up 5 hours ago. Yeah. Like, I'm groggy. I'm not going to get productive till 3 p.m. by that time. And, you know, this day kind of feels shot, but, you know, the next day you just wake up, you know, like, I can attack something this day. Like, it doesn't matter what happened yesterday. Yeah. And I would say that's one thing that I felt so much, because there's been days, like, some hard days, you know, like, we feel like shit. Yeah. Like, the day beat your ass, which in your 20s, you're going to get your ass beat. I'm gonna let you guys know that now. In your 20s, you're gonna get your ass whooped by life in the best way, but you're gonna get a lot of lessons out of it too. And the more lessons you get and the more ass whoopings you get through life, I would say the more, like, you just keep going and pushing through that. It feels so good, because you're like, oh my God, I know so much more information right now, and I don't know why. But then you reflect and you're like, okay, it's because I've been pushing more. Yeah. But it's just, don't beat yourself up too much about it. We all do, especially young men. I want to say that for sure. Young men are definitely beating their subs up a ton, and it's hard not to, because you see a lot of people in the competitive area, whatever your area in, somebody's like kicking some ass in that area. Yeah. But you're like, all right, cool. Like, you don't see they started like 5-8 years ago.
Yeah.
Getting their ass beat.
Yeah.
So you just got to go through it, and then just always have an optimistic mindset for what you're doing too.
Yeah, man, I think it's just because in today's world, as you know, with social media, like everyone's successes are all out there, especially for the ones that build a personal brand based off of it. So there's so much comparison that you can be exposed to. And I definitely want to dig deeper into your story with you being a Division I athlete in the past, but also just talk a lot about the ass whoopings that you had to go through. Before we do get into that, there's just like two more things I want to talk about with everything we've discussed up until this point. Number one, just wanted to say that like, that what we just said when it comes to beating yourself up or not, it does come back to number one, like when you mentioned the tech guys who can work very late, and I earlier mentioned how like you can compare yourself to someone and be like, well, if they can do X, Y, and Z and still be productive, then I should be able to, right? One of my biggest struggles wasn't necessarily ever waking up early. It was going to bed early, right? Like I liked being up at night. Like I could stay up till 2 a.m. easily, no matter how much sleep I got at night. So I wanted to be that guy, like, oh, why can't I just wake up at 10 and then work later till 2 a.m.? It just doesn't work for me. Like, no matter how much I want it to work for me, I'm the type of individual at like 8:30, 9 p.m., unless I've been flowing through from a lot earlier, I can't start working at those times. Like, my brain just doesn't operate that way. But when I wake up at 5, I can get cracking from like fucking 6 a.m. all the way leading up to that 8 p.m. time frame and just crack all the way through, you know? So it's like, back to the Bruce Lee quote, you know, account for what other people are doing, consider it, but only focus on yourself.
Yeah.
You know, account for everyone else, account for the people that are doing what you want to do, but focus solely on yourself. And I think that's a big thing. There's been something that I've discovered recently I've been super excited to talk to you specifically about, because you like to get very deep on these like intellectual mindset concepts, right? And what I had discovered was like this concept or exercise that you can do to get yourself to stop doing a bad habit, any bad habit. And it's about like figuring out why you actually do it. What I learned is that, let's say, for example, smoking weed.
Yep.
I used to smoke a shit ton of weed, like in full honesty, way too much. Like no matter what I was doing, even when I was making decent amount of money, I was waking up and at some point in the first 2 to 3 hours smoking and then just staying high for pretty much the entire day. So for a long time, I was like, I want to quit smoking weed, right? And I just kept saying, I want to quit smoking weed and maybe quit for a day or two and then smoking again. But the problem with that was that I was always going against my own mind. And that's where you're going to continue to fail and fail and fail when you want to cut a bad habit. So how do you stop going against your mind? And what I mean by that is that I might be saying I want to quit smoking weed, but obviously something in my brain and my mind wants to smoke weed, which is why I continue to make that decision. The only way that you can start to operate in parallel with your mind is if you figure out the reason why, right? So I had to ask myself, why do I want to keep smoking weed, especially at times when I shouldn't be high, when I shouldn't be faded? And you can ask yourself that over and over and over again, because you're never going to find the answer right off the bat. But if you ask yourself that enough times, even when you continue making that mistake, like I would ask myself, smoke weed, realize what I did, ask myself why I did it. And eventually I came down to the reason, which was that the human brain is always going to look to protect itself. It tries to conserve as much energy as possible. So I found that anytime the reason my brain and my mindset wanted me to get faded was because I would always do less. Even if I tried to convince myself that I was a productive smoker or any of that fucking bullshit, which is bullshit. I don't care who you are. You're not more creative when you're faded. It's just you're slower. It's as simple as that. So I realized that my brain, the only reason why it ever wanted to smoke at times when I shouldn't was because my brain had the data knowing that anytime I did get faded, I would do less, which would protect my brain more in terms of conserving energy. Once I found that answer, anytime I looked at or thought about smoking weed, I was in parallel with my mind. It was almost like a game. Like, oh, okay, yeah, like my brain wants me to smoke because I'm going to do less, but I'm not trying to do less, so fuck that. I'm not going to smoke.
Yeah.
So I know that was long-winded, but basically my point is that like with any bad habit, whether it's waking up early, going to sleep late, smoking weed, drinking, the easiest way to break that habit is if you try to position yourself to be in parallel with your mind rather than going against it. So if you figure out why does your brain want you to do those things, then you could start operating in parallel with your mind so that you and your conscious are a team rather than enemies. What are your thoughts on that? Can you relate to it at all?
I would say I have some relations. This is the getting your ass beat in your 20s. This is one of the areas of like, I've seen a lot of my mentors talk about too, is lean into the hard things. And there's so many things that are hard in this world. And it can come from all areas. And these are one of the things. It's like, oh, okay, if it's hard to quit smoking, okay, it's hard. Lean into the hard things. I'm gonna lean into quitting smoking weed. Cool. Like that's logical thinking right there. And then, also, another thing that hits my mind is like Alex Hormozi, when he's talking to the pledges about like what is like, you guys knew this is going to be hard, right? And they're like, oh, like, yeah. And then he was like, well, this is what hard looks like. And they're like, oh, it's kind of like that. That's what it felt like for me in football. That's a great example. It's just like, with the early morning workouts and all this like abnormal stuff I've never done before. It's like, well, we told you this is going to be hard. It's like, you did. And why are you complaining? It's like, well, okay, it's like, I guess that makes sense. I would say don't cold turkey. Cold turkey can also be like a hard thing. Set yourself up for success. Transition accordingly. I'm gonna do less and less and less till you beat it to sleep. And then you're suddenly sitting here like, oh my God, I just realized I haven't done this in 2 weeks. So I'll talk about one example for me. In college, obviously you do a lot of alcohol consumption. I never overdrank, I don't think. I don't think I did, but like you definitely consume a lot of alcohol, and it's soon like I've seen how much detrimental it is to your body. And thank God there's a trend going on right now where not a lot of people are drinking a lot of alcohol. They're going to more coffee shops. Shout out to my coffee shops.
Coffee shop king right here, guys.
But I think that's one of the areas. Like I've drank hard liquor twice this year, just because like I just like the mental clarity without it so much right now. Especially it just feels amazing. So it's not like I cold turkeyed. I was like lagging off of it last year at the tail end of the year, like way more and more and more. And then obviously 2024 hit, a lot of people do New Year's resolutions and go, okay, I'm gonna stop drinking for the month of January. I've been doing that, not drinking for the month of January for like 5 years now, just because like, I was like, great, it's something good to do. It's something I can accomplish in like 30, 31 days, whatever it is. But it just carried on more and more. And bad habits can also be good habits. That's one thing I've learned in football is your body doesn't know the difference between bad or good. It just knows habit.
Wow.
If you start doing or stop doing something and it's a habit, you're just going to continuously do that because you get that same trigger, you get that same cue to do or not do something, and you get that same trigger to do or not do something, and you either do or don't do it.
If anyone out there just wants to figure out how they can break a habit, they don't know where to start, they've tried to break this habit many, many times. Step number one, figure out why you're doing it. And then from there, it'll probably be a lot easier for you to just align yourself with your own conscious and your mind so that it's easier for you to accomplish it. Where are you from, Jordan?
I'm from Champaign, Illinois. So it's like, 2.5 hours down south of Chicago.
By U of I, right? University going on.
Yeah, everybody knows that. That's like the next comment after everybody. But yeah, by U of I.
Got you. And you were born and raised there, grew up there your entire life?
Born and raised there and grew up there my whole life.
And were you an athlete, like deeply from when you were a kid?
That's the thing. I was an athlete through and through. Played 3 sports: football, baseball, and basketball. Did a whole lot of that. But yeah,
obviously, like you've grown tremendously into this very like inspirational, motivational individual, kind of naturally. I don't think that you go out of your way to do those things, but what I found with a lot of people like you is it's all interconnected back to where they came from. I'd like to learn a lot more about what your life was like growing up when it came to your family, your responsibilities, what you thought you were going to be doing with your career. Back when like you were in high school, for example, what was Jordan Will like in those days? I
would say I was always a curious individual. I grew up with a diverse amount of like friend groups. So that was great to be exposed to, I would say. Like, it doesn't matter. Like what brought me to that is sports was the original area that brought me to like great diversity in the school system as well. But I was also interested in academics. I was always a nerd too. I was a nerd. That was like a part of me that I love too, which is, it's hard navigating as a kid too. Cause it's like, all right, if you love sports and you also are a nerd, there's many people out there like that for sure. But you don't see too much commonality of that. So like I would chill with my friends that were, like into sports, and like we always like, cause we're at practice all the time or like outside of school. But there's also friends that like, it was kind of cool being around cause like they had like the nerd capabilities and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that was always a great thing. And then I guess where that like also converges in areas is gaming. So I gamed a little bit as a kid. I feel like a lot of people did, and that's where you can get like your gaming side, your athletic ability, but also your nerd side, because you're trying to hack. You're trying to like find all the key points and everything.
The goose eggs and shit.
You said the goose eggs.
Yeah.
Yes, like there was nothing that you didn't want to find out, whether it's like searching it or finding some type of like hack into it. Gaming was one of those key things, and I still think today, if any kid is interested in gaming, it's a wonderful skill to like build entrepreneurial skills, business skills, communication skills, because now you can have headsets, and communities and friendships. It's just like, it's about utilizing that later in life. But yeah, so like gaming can still be really beneficial to those areas. Definitely looking back, I wish I was exposed to so much more. I was like, it was heavy on sports for sure. I mean, all right, this is actually an interesting statement. I've never got in high school I only got 1B.
Okay.
Yeah, not intelligence, but also trying hard.
Okay.
So I'm not like a genius, but like I just was an individual that tried hard, and that's it. And kind of work the system. I feel like there's always systems to everything, and that was one of the best things I realized. I kept thinking there's not a system when you get to the next level. Yeah. There's systems to everything. So you just got to find out how to work the system, do your best, and not like get the information that you get out, but work efficiently and effectively, not trying to do everything to the perfection of whoever's deeming perfection. But yeah, so like one thing I wish I was exposed to was there's so many more opportunities out there than the schooling system will say, or some people in your town will let you know. They will encourage you for sure. They will let you know that like, I want you to do like the best you can. You can be absolutely any person you want. But in sports, unfortunately, it seems like the only goal is like go pro. But a step beyond that I've realized since growing up is even sportsmen, what they're trying to go, their next level is a businessman. The game of business is an endless game, something you can play from the start all the way to death. And that's the fun thing. Sports, you have a limited life. Like, unfortunately, that's the nature of the game, right? And those that are blessed to like go on to play pros, like that's an amazing time. Like I've had some friends, I have some people that like have done that before, and they love it.
Yeah.
It's just the 0.1% that do that, very small amount. And, you have a cutoff deadline to where it's like, damn, you're kind of like a little old to like keep trying to pursue this or something like that. But the game of business is endless. You can get your ass beat for like, some people get their ass beat for 10 years. And like NVIDIA's CEO, damn, I wish I knew his name off the top of my head, but his story, like he had a lot of failures, like, trying to figure out many different problems over the years. And look at him now. And that story is replicated over and over and over again. You can get success in your 40s, and that's still relatively early.
Yeah.
Some people even say. What I wish I had earlier was being exposed to like, there's different opportunities you can be doing. This can be a full-time job. The commercials that you see that you love about any brand that you like somebody makes those. That's somebody's full-time job, and they get paid a shit ton to do that. So it's like, okay, why can't I do that? All right, what's the steps in order to do that? So it's being very curious and questioning everything and being like, okay, why can't I do that job? Or everything that's produced in life, that is a position for somebody to do, or to take a path, or to start a business in. All of that is a reality that anybody can have and anybody can take advantage of. I know one of the areas that I wish I got exposed to a little bit sooner was computer science. Just because I'm very bullish on like computer science, the knowledge that it teaches you. So not necessarily like the industry right now, because I heard it's pretty rough out there. But so the computer science, like it's a different way of thinking. And since we're interacting with computers all day, it allows you to move so fast in our modern day. And I think it's going to allow you to move faster in the future.
Yeah.
Coming from Champion, it was good. Obviously, I made it here so far, and I can't wait to the path I'm like going on more and more. But I will say there's a reason why I moved to a bigger city, like a huge reason why I moved to a bigger city. And it's because of crossing paths with so many different people that have such different stories or have different walks of life or different way they live. For example, you've done so many different things in such a short amount of time, whether you think that's a long amount of time or not. Like at the age you are, you have done so much and you're very active, and you're like, all right, like I see something, I'm gonna attack it right now. Just like the friend group, you know what I'm saying? You reached out to Garrett instantly and then you met so many people.
Right.
Like that's hard for some people to like think about and fathom.
Right.
Like to be like, okay, like how do I get somebody's attention? How do I actually meet up with them? And also another pro tip, if you want to get somebody's attention and meet up with them, offer them value.
Yeah.
Like you did for me. You're like, hey, can I buy you coffee or can I buy you a meal? I'm gonna look at the camera on this one. If you guys want to find somebody that you guys want to get attention of, buy them a $30 meal or something like that. It's probably one of the best investments you can make. And I've seen that said by so many people. And while you're young, it's one of the best like skills and hacks you have. That's why I'm like sitting here, I'm 25 years old and I'm thinking, I'm like, damn, I hope I don't grow up too soon, because I'm like, I have so many questions and I'm using this age as a hack right now.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you can use so much. You can be like, all right, I'm a leader in this industry for like this amount of things, but you also want to have your curiosity hat on constantly. Yeah. Because just like Hormozi, like, and other people, they buy and learn from other people all the time. Like he buys everybody's knowledge. He learns from everybody. People on podcasts, I'll tell you the biggest reason why a lot of people do podcasts. It's so they can get business ideas and so they can get feedback and get a lot of great advice.
You're telling my secrets, bro.
Exactly. But all about what's the name of this podcast?
Free Game Podcast, baby.
There you go.
Free Game Podcast.
He encouraged me to do it.
A lot of the people that I talk to have been able to get to a certain point in their lives, such as you or any of our friends, Renzo, Garrett, Ibby. I find that there's a virtue from their upbringing that kind of carries through and is almost like a foundational concept in terms of becoming who they are. And you mentioned even when you were an athlete at a very young age, you were always extremely curious. Do you see how that carried all the way through to like being the reason you moved to a bigger city is because you were just so curious and you wanted to learn from all of these different people with different stories rather than just staying exactly where you came from? So I caught that for you, of course. And I actually want to take a few steps back and just ask you, like, you mentioned so many things you wish you were exposed to. Why do you wish you were exposed to those things? What does that mean for you? Like, where is that coming from?
You know, we're always going to be like, I wish we knew something at some point in time earlier. And to help anybody else that always thinks that, or if you're stuck on that, just think of this one process right here. In 5 years, you're going to look back at right now that you're like, I wish I knew some information. All right, take a second and think of what that is. All right, you don't know it. Cool. Move on. Because like you don't know it now. And obviously in 5 years, you're going to wish you knew it. It's like, crap, I didn't know. I'm trying as hard as possible. Like I can look on the internet, whatever it is. I just don't know it. So it's just like, all right, relax, you know, because that's always going to be a thing. Every millionaire, billionaire, like any successful person is like, oh, I wish I could have done this. But and that being said, it's like, I think it's the curiosity and possibilities that has like really transitioned my ideology and mindset. And also the fact of, I feel like I can talk to absolutely anybody. It doesn't matter who an individual is. So for example, I can see someone that's like a banker, they're a man at JP Morgan and they have kids. They're 40, 50 years old. And they have kids and everything. You know, if you think, oh, that's an executive person, they're at a high company XYZ. It's like, cool. My parents are your age and I'm a kid of them. So, and if I call my parents, I'm so comfortable calling my parents. So why wouldn't I be comfortable just talking and calling you?
Just humanizing them. Yeah,
humanizing. You just like look at them like, oh, they have kids, they have a life, they breathe and everything. Yeah, and everybody's like more similar than what you think. And then I would say the thing is that I just want to be exposed to more. It's just the opportunities that are out there. Just because I see a pattern in every successful person I've seen, even in our friend groups, even in like top executives on like, you know, Fortune 500 companies that I read articles and biographies and studied them. And then also, you know, like on the Alex Hormozi levels as well. You have to go through a phase where you're figuring things out and you're getting your ass beat basically, because you're getting feedback over and over and over again. And that no one is like, there's no hack around that. Yeah. Because I've searched, I'm like, all right, somebody has to have a hack where they had a story and There's very minimal, like you can have Zuckerberg where you just have a magical, you know, product market fit and everything just like works out. But go look at the movie. He had his trials and tribulations and somewhat. Yeah. Like, right. Like it's just always necessary to happen. So once you figure that out, you're like, cool, like I have to eat shit at some point in time, whether that's on the way up or on the way down or however it works, however life makes it happen. Then you just accept that truth and then you keep moving forward. But it's how soon can you get started and get doing that? Yeah. So that's my thing right there. It's like, if I was exposed to that there's so much more possibilities. It doesn't matter where you come from. And also that there's so many things that are out there that you, me, anybody can do. And that curiosity level can be so high. Then that right there, it's like, okay, cool. Now I can get started on, you know, working my way to success, whether that's like failing here, failing there, and then home run, which is, that's a lot of people's patterns I've seen.
Yep.
But yeah, just the curiosity loop of like, oh, anything's possible. I can do absolutely anything. But like I always say, I always tie it back to, it's like, cool, I'm still young, find out now. Doesn't really matter that like what happened too early. It's still very early.
Dude, you're right, man. Like everyone gets their ass beat. And you know, like even our friends that are the most successful ones, and that's why I started this podcast, is because like right now you see people after they've already made it. And I want people to realize that from where they're standing, that's exactly where these people once stood as well.
Oh yeah, 100%.
You know, they're not just these unique superhero type individuals that somehow were able to break through and see success. Every single person had to get their ass beat. It's just about how long are you going to delay that fight, that war between you and yourself and between you and life? And the more you delay it, the war is always going to be the same amount of time, right? But it's just about how long do you delay getting into that war between you and yourself or between you and life. And I think for a long time, like when I think back to my life, you know, when I wasn't necessarily attacking the things that I wanted to do and said that I would do for so long, I was, you know, let's say I was just doing my job, going out with my friends on the weekends, having a good time, this, that, and the other. But all I was doing was delaying that war, right? And I'm almost like creating a little separate war internally because I always never felt content. No matter what I was doing, I knew that I was supposed to be doing more. I was just delaying it. And as soon as I had started, which for me was like this journey over the past 6 months, I'm always getting my ass beat. I mean, shit, starting this podcast, I got my ass beat. Starting my business, I got my ass beat. Transitioning out of my role, I'm getting my ass beat. No one's supporting you. No one's clapping for you, besides for the people that are doing what you want to be doing in life.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? So, yeah, I mean, I think that's what this show is all about. You know, I want people to see that these people just didn't just land where they are and get dropped from the fucking sky or a launch bus onto success, you know?
Yeah.
They went through their trials and tribulations, but it was only because they chose to take action, which allowed them to enter that war, and it's just about who finishes the war all the way through. You don't have to win it, you just have to finish it.
Yeah.
Right?
So
you got to take the beatings.
That's exactly it. And I got something on that too, is if you want to dive a little deeper, because a lot of people are going to like analyze this podcast or like, you know, try to put something in their mind, and everybody's always thinking of a situation where like, how does this make sense? And I'll make it make sense for people. It's, if you ever see UFC fights, if you ever see any type of fight, if you ever see athletics or the grit time in sports or anything, they make it seem effortless only because that's the confidence you need to have until you lose. One person, UFC, one team, somebody's going to lose. But it's literally about fighting through the challenges of getting your ass beat the whole time, but having such confidence that you're going to win each and every time, that the only success part that you see is when they're all bloodied up, they're tired, they're sweat, they're passed out halfway, and they're sitting there like, oh my God. But if you give them like 24, 48 hours, they're going to be dressed up, looking pretty, looking so nice. And that's what people really see. But what the truth is, it's the whole blood, sweat, scars right after the fight that they almost lost.
Right.
But it doesn't matter, almost losing or almost winning. It doesn't matter. If you almost win, you still win. There's a lot of people that squeak through cracked doors, but it seems like they dominate the whole time.
Right.
And that's the truth that I've been seeing too, is like, oh my God, like, you know, it seems like this person dominated the whole time, but they squeezed through a cracked door, they won, and then they found out there's a lot of other cracked doors. They started stacking those, and then they started dominating.
Right.
But I think you hit it on the nose. It's like literally pushing through, getting your ass beat over and over again.
Dude,
and then
it's
like, and then you get that win, and just like that alone just feels amazing.
Yep. It's inevitable, man. Like no matter what the fuck it is that you're trying to do, it doesn't matter who your role models are. Like they all went through trauma.
Yeah.
They all got their fucking asses beat. You know what I mean? Why would they talk about that versus talking about where they are? And that's what a lot of people get confused, is like, if you're sitting there and if you've never done anything with your life, it doesn't mean that you look at someone who's extremely successful, even if they're a fucking millionaire, and say that they are where they are, so I can't get there. You just need to look at between the lines. Like, what do they have that I don't have? And a lot of the times you'll realize that it's fucking nothing, especially when they first started. You just have to have two things: belief and a vision, and that's what'll get you through the war. But more importantly, get you to jump into the war, right?
Give me one thing. What's one small story where you got your ass beat?
Bro,
just one story.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now. So like with this podcast alone, getting here and trying to record my first episodes, number one, none of my equipment came in on time.
Yep.
I'm supposed to have 3 cameras. None of my cameras came in. So I had to find another place to record the episode, which is where we are now. And luckily it all worked out. But in that very moment, like I wanted to say, man, fuck this, you know, because it wasn't just me trying to start my first podcast episodes. Yeah. I'm interviewing for a role at Google, right? I'm considering a new opportunity with one of the most successful online businesses in the game that are generating $50 million a year in rev. And at the same time, I'm transitioning out of my current role. All within the same week, I was getting my ass beat the whole fucking week, bro. I wasn't eating, I wasn't sleeping. All I kept doing was just get through the day. Yeah. Literally, like, just get through the day. Yeah. Bro, when I woke up yesterday before recording my first ever episode, I didn't even know how I was going to do it. Literally, like, I'm waking up in the morning, working on my current job, transitioning to the sales meetings for the new job, preparing for my interview that's on Sunday with Google, while coming in to record my first episode that I have to just be able to perform well in, right?
Yeah.
It's all about like perseverance. Like, you know, the easiest thing is always going to be to give up. But then I was like, man, if I give up, like I've been down that path before. I've lived the life where I was doing none of these things and I wasn't content, right? So a lot of the times, like when you're in those situations, for me, it was just about saying like, man, fuck, I could leave this all behind. I could quit all the things that I'm trying to do and just focus on a job and make good money and fuck it. But that's what I did for the past 2 years. And I was constantly upset with myself because I knew that I was bound for more.
Yeah.
So I just decided, you know what, bro, I'm awake. All I have to do is get to the point where I fall asleep and then get back to the point where I wake up again. And if that doesn't happen, then fuck it. It's out of my hands, you know?
See, I'm telling you.
So, I mean, that's just a recent example as of last week. But then it's also like, I can give you another example, like when I started to create content, everyone I was surrounding myself with at the time who I had thought were my closest friends over the past 2 to 3 years, like you expect for you to start doing something that you think is great for you and for everyone to kind of support you and like push you towards it, when really they were just trying to pull me away from it, just making fun of it. Like, bro, what the fuck are you doing? Like, this isn't going to work, blah, blah, blah. What are you just trying to become an influencer? So that's just a smack in the face, smack in the face, smack in the face. My father, oh, you make money from it? Well, I mean, no, like I'm just posting, you know what I mean? I'm just posting videos. Well, why are you doing it? I could have looked at it and been like, man, fuck, maybe I shouldn't do it. But in reality, like my pops don't understand social media, bro.
Yeah.
I'm first generation, you know? So you got to take it all with a grain of salt sometimes.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
Nonetheless, that war is inevitable for everybody. And I'm in the middle of that war right now. I hope that when the viewers are watching this episode that I have, you know, a good amount of subscribers built up of people that are actually finding value. But all that matters is my mission. You know what I mean? So I'm amidst this war right now. I'm constantly getting my ass beat literally every single day. I don't know what tomorrow is going to hold, but I have a mission. And my mission comes back to your wish. And your wish was that when you were back in high school, going into college, you were exposed to the opportunities that this new age, this modern world has to offer. And that's what this podcast is all about.
Yeah.
Is helping people realize the opportunities that are out there. And the reason that they think the only way for them to be successful is to go to college, get a corporate job, climb up the ladder, or even become a professional athlete is because none of the things that existed in today's world existed when the people that had taught us those pathways were trying to become successful.
Yeah.
Starting with the internet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So that's what this show is all about, is so that people can find those opportunities and be exposed to them. And not only that, realize that it's fucking real, you know? Because they're scrolling through Instagram, they got 25 guys saying that they could teach them how to make 10K a month, all within 3 minutes of scrolling. But at the very least, if you see one of them on this podcast in an episode, you'll understand who they are, where they came from, what did their war look like, how did they get to where they are now, and how can you do the exact same thing?
Yeah, 100%.
So that it doesn't just seem like a scam or a Ponzi scheme, which is what everyone thinks it is.
Yeah.
And it's just not. So, like, what did that war look like for you, man? Like, obviously, okay, let's take it back to this point of your story. So, you're in high school. I'm assuming you were a beast at football, right?
Yeah. Look, I guess.
What did you play?
Position-wise?
Yeah.
I played, like, defensive end, kind of outside linebacker. But in college, I played outside linebacker and tight end.
So, like, at this point in your life, when you're going into college, were you thinking that you were going to go to the NFL? Like, was that what your frame of mind was like? Or what was it like for you going into college? What did you think you were going to be doing?
I would say definitely going into college, that is your frame of mind always. Is like, I'm going to have fun at this university, of course, but I am putting as much work as possible to make the best chance to go to the league. There's no reason why you shouldn't have that goal, I would say, too, is like, it's not, don't get me wrong. Like, don't get me wrong. You know, if you don't want to go to the NFL, like, that's not a bad thing, but make sure you are putting your highest effort towards what you're doing, or you're cheating your teammates. And that's exactly what you do not want to do.
Yeah.
But it's natural to try to like want to be better and make it to that next level. And that's the whole mindset for sure.
Where did you go to school?
I went to school at Ball State University, which is in Indiana.
Okay. And at Ball State University, like when you're going into your freshman year of college, first of all, you got a D1 college offer, so I'm sure you were feeling like on top of the world. For most kids playing in high school, I mean, that's their dream, right? Mm-hmm. For any athlete, their dream is to play D1. So you were able, was that a dream for you?
Yeah, for sure.
And you were able to accomplish that dream, of course, but like, were things in your life all stable up until this point? Once you started playing D1 football, like things with your family, your finances, like you were pretty much in a comfortable situation?
Yes and no. I would say this. Everybody has their challenges, especially with family and finances. I didn't come from money, but I blessed to come from two parents.
That's
like
awesome.
That's one thing that like I'll get chills like literally thinking about too, is like having two parents in my life was amazing to have. And they've set so many great examples. And also I would say I'm the youngest, so I have an older brother and sister. So they helped me out tremendous amount as well. And I see that. And the reason why like I don't look at so many challenges because I literally look at, I mean, where my parents grew up, they didn't have parents in their, like they didn't have two parents in their households. So I see that. I have a lot of friends that only have one parent in the households, or just had other people that had a significant amount of challenges. And I'm like, I don't care if I don't have that much money. I don't care if I had like a lot of family problems here and there or whatever. Like it was just not as bad as what other people are going through. So like, it's just like, I don't want to complain about shit when some people eat very bad shit in their lives at a young age. And it's just like, all right, like just shake it off and move on. Cause it's like, I've met people, I've shaken hands with people, and I've heard other people's stories that like are significantly came from underserved areas way more than me. And I was just like, even my dad, like his story is like absolutely crazy too. It's not having a father in his life and then being an amazing father. How do you do something and you don't even get taught how to do it? Imagine that. You don't even get taught how to do something and he does it in such an amazing way. Just thinking about that, it's like, all right, I am blessed that he made those sacrifices to do that, even though he was never taught, or that was like a soft spot and everything. You know, there's so many good things that you want to look at. And that's the optimistic thinking I'm talking about. It's like when you get your ass beat, you always want to think about the optimistic areas. You know, the areas that the challenges, you're going to use that for storytelling because a lot of people are going through a lot of different things at this moment in time. But the best thing is when you get through that, your brain definitely attaches to the great things.
Yeah, man.
You know what I'm saying? Like, cause you have like bad things that happen all the time and it's great to like, you know, put in stories, but like you think about like, you know, I had a lot of bad shit, but my brain happens to love the optimistic parts. And I think that's a great part about humanity in certain areas. It's like your brain attaches to optimistic memories. So I think that's a thing. So everybody has challenges and I promise you're not alone. And there's like tons of people that go through a lot of stuff. And unfortunately, not a lot of, at least on the men's side, not a lot of men will share what they're going through. That's just kind of how it is. Like, I wouldn't say that's like end all be all. I would never say that. Like people can share, like there's so many groups out there. But that is just how it is. And not many people are alone. Like everything's like a lot of other people are doing this, like feeling the same way.
Yeah, I just want to say one thing real quick for anyone who watches this, and it's about like trying to see the positives. Cause like, bro, I just talked about my war, and like some people watching this will probably be like, fuck you. Like, what the fuck? You're literally complaining about having to take an interview with Google, having to take an interview with another company, working on your own business, being able to start a podcast. Like, fuck you, asshole. Like, you think that's some hard shit? And look, it is for me, but that's how I get through it. Yeah. You know, it's like, I tell people all the time, like, that's why I don't complain, is because I don't have the right to, right? Yeah. And I would have never said that out loud had you not asked me. So if you're in a situation where you want to kind of let yourself be the victim, which is what I always have at the top of my mind, look outside. Literally, that's what I do, bro. Look outside. Like, that's literally all you got to do, bro.
Yeah.
Anytime I'm starting to feel sorry for myself, I look outside. You see a guy fucking 90 years old walking to the gas station asking for some change. You see a kid on the corner with his dad. You see a fucking guy with one arm in the gym. Who are you to feel sorry for yourself, right? Mm-hmm. So I talked about my war, but I do want to clarify that, like, I definitely don't feel sorry for myself. I feel extremely grateful for the situation that I'm in. And I appreciate it, which is what allows me to get through the war.
Yeah.
It's my war, but it's not a war compared to everyone else's. You know what I mean? It's, if anything, it's a fucking garden compared to some people. So if you're going through a bunch of bullshit and you think that you should feel sorry for yourself, go outside, dude. Go outside, whether you're a girl or a guy, just go outside, and then you'll realize how appreciative and grateful you should be for your own life. And that's just a virtue to get you through that war. Mm-hmm. But I want to ask you, like, you know, was that a realization that you always had when it came to, I'm going to get deep with you for a second. Like, I lost my ma when I was very young. So my mom died right when I was around 8 years old, right? And growing up, you know, I was always jealous of, like, any kids or whatever that just had parents, you know, two parents. Anyone that kind of, like, from the outside looking in, you could just tell there was so much unconditional love involved in their lives, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember being so fucking pissed off anytime I would see, like, younger guys or whatever just talking back to their moms. Like, that used to piss me off all the time, bro. Like, whether I was at my friend's house and his mom was like, come downstairs. He's like, Mom, wait, I'm playing fucking COD. Bro, in my head, I was like, what the fuck? This is at a young age. It used to piss me off. Like, I wanted to just strangle him because they didn't realize what they had, you know? Or seeing a kid at the park, his mom's taking him to the park, and then she's like, okay, sweetie, we gotta go. And he starts yelling at her like he doesn't want to leave. Like, motherfucker, I just had to walk to this park. You know what I mean? Like, so, like, did you always have that realization of, like, how blessed you were with having those two parents? Or, like, were you a dickhead when you were younger and eventually were able to realize it? And also, like, what did it mean to you when you saw others who didn't have what you had?
So I wouldn't say I was ever, like, too much of a dickhead. I think mainly because I was also, I mean, when you're youngest, you're also raised by your older siblings. So that helped as well. So I kind of, like, followed suit with them, and they, like, were always respectable and everything. Obviously, there was times where things were taken for granted, for sure. Anything you have that immediately from birth, you're kind of taking it for granted because you're like, all right, like, I have this, like, I'm born into, like, whatever it is. So sometimes it was, like, two-parent household, like, having, like, that was like, okay, it kind of felt regular, whatever. But then I soon was exposed to, like, some of my friends. They didn't have those same exact things. Both my parents directly did not have that either. They only had mothers mainly in their lives. So, like, having that also, like, was beaten into me too, like, through communication as well. So, like, that was, like, a big part of my understanding. But I know I've seen other individuals that didn't have, like, two-parent households, and it's like I always felt in a way of, like, you know, like, I'm blessed to have that alone, you know, regardless if it's not always healthy, always, like, monetary, like, financially stable. Like, at least I have two breathing people like that too. And then on top of that, my dad was also an individual. Like, he would take people under his wing all the time. So he was somebody that was like, all right, because he grew up that same way. Like, that's kind of the life that he grew up to, is like, family wasn't always blood. It was, like, kind of who you chose it to be as well. So, like, taking other people under your wing. I know my mom she's actually doing that. She did that, I think, early last year or, like, earlier this year or something like that. She was, like, out of school, you know, helping out a young woman as well, because that's what she loved to do, because she, you know, she can be a mother figure and that's what she loves. And I was like, my dad used to do that too when I was a kid. And now, you know, hearing those stories, you know, you don't hear as many stories until you grow up, and then you start realizing reality areas. But I was like, oh, that is like seeing that, you know, if they're helping out other individuals. And I thank God, authentically, I was never, like, jealous of, like, them helping out another individual, because I understood.
Yeah.
They were great at teaching that for me.
Yeah.
Because they seen that in different areas that other people, you know, need, you know, that figure, somebody to talk to. And I think it is very necessary. But yeah, like, and I feel bad for, like your story, like what you were saying too, is like, in the best way, you know, is like, when people are talking back, And it's not bad if you did in the past. Don't beat yourself up, but somebody beats yourself up about it. Just like acknowledge it, be like, oh crap, let me go to the store, buy some flowers for my mom.
Yep.
Like, because parents take scars all the time from their kids.
Yeah.
That's what I've been told to be parenting. I'm not a parent, but like that's what they say, they're going to take scars from the kids, but I promise you could do like 100 bad things like as a kid, and you do like one good thing, such as like getting your parents a meal, a dinner, or like something. And they're going to feel so much. They're going to be like, oh my God. Because they didn't naturally expect that. It's unconditional love from your parents.
Yeah.
And then if you ever have any parents that I passed away or anything, think about what they would want for you.
Yeah.
It's like in the brightest way of life, if whatever your nature of like faith is, whatever, just, kind of think about what they want for you too. So that's always the best thing that I was told as well. So,
yeah.
But yeah, there's some optimistic ways you can try to look at things.
For sure. Yeah, I've always led with wanting to make my mama proud, and it definitely gave me a lot of power in life. And one thing I've always said, I've actually tweeted this before, I got blood that ain't family, and I got family that ain't blood. Mm-hmm. And I think, like, bro, the feeling that you can get when you can actually, like, truly impact someone's life, like, literally their entire pathway of life would have been different had you not existed in their lives.
Yeah.
The gratification and the feeling you get from that, at least for me, is so much more than money could ever do.
Yeah.
I always say, people like me, if you're not helping others, it's a sad and futile life. You need to find out what your unique talent or gift is, develop it to its fullest, because people don't pay for cheap, and give your gift away. Give your gift away every single day, and that's the only way you'll be happy.
And I like how you said, find out what you're good at. And I wanted to say something earlier, now I brought it back, is try out everything. That's the thing. A lot of people think they've seen success of what they have, like nowadays, like all of our friends, and they're like, oh, they had success in this area. They've been doing that their whole life. No, no, I've asked around. I'm like, hey, like, what are the paths, what are the hoops, what are the areas you got to getting like good at what area you are in right now? And it's somewhat unrelated to. It's like, oh, I tried this, and that hit, and then I just stuck with that, and it just kept going.
Yeah.
And that's how you find out what you're good at. You can't find out what you're good at by someone telling you, or someone quote unquote reading you, or whatever it is, because you have to literally figure that out on your own. Because some people would be like, oh, I think you would be good with this, or you would be good with this.
Right.
The next step is trying out and seeing if you're good with that, because that's like end result. Blam, you're gonna get the feedback if you are good or if you're not.
Right.
Yeah,
you don't have to choose the perfect thing. You literally just have to take action.
Yeah.
Like all of us have. You look at our friend group, right? Everyone, like, bro, the average monthly revenue in our friend group is probably $100,000 a month, right? Every single one of us has like tried e-commerce at one point, tried sneaker flipping at one point, tried day trading at one point, up until like they landed on their thing, which like they were passionate about, and it was natural for them to keep growing in that area specifically. So like, you're right, you don't have to find that perfect thing. You just literally have to take action. Even if it's as fucking starting a lemonade stand and you think that's your thing, just do it, because otherwise you'll never find out. And no one can ever tell you whether or not it's your thing. Like no one can ever guess that, not even you. You can only look at the data, and then the data will tell whether it's your thing or not. But I do want to come back to your story, man, because I'm trying to see, like, how did you transition from a D1 football player who thought that he was going to go to the league to becoming a content creator, but also like a master of oneself? Like, where did that transition happen for you throughout your college career to where you became who you are today?
Mm-hmm. So I would say to start, you can create whoever you want in yourself, like absolutely whatever you want. And I actually definitely want to be an example of that. And not even just right now, because like I'm literally pivoting my life. The more information I get and the more people I meet and the more like opportunities show themselves, I'm like, holy crap, like I never thought about living that way. So I'm gonna start living that way. And I think one example is like, all right, if I'm somebody that's in sports, I did good in school and everything. I got a few degrees and whatnot, but like just because I did that doesn't mean I can't like pivot and just like go and learn like computer science or like make a lot of friends in the tech scene or in the space that, like on making money online. Like you can pivot your whole life anywhere and any time. Like you don't have to be like, just because you're known for something does not mean you have to be known for that for the next X amount of years. Literally, you can start over. And that's what I see a ton right now. And a lot of people are definitely scared of it. And there's a quote. There are quotes like flow in my head all the time, but like I think it's from My First Million, the podcast, or somewhere else. But they said one powerful thing is the ability to pivot into something and then start from zero and just like work your way up.
Yeah.
And Elon Musk was one of those individuals they had an example of where he started from zero and learned rocket science and everything. Yeah, smart individual. But again, like to go all the way from zero again and be somewhere, it's tough. So I would say like to where I am now, I've always been interested in, mathematics, kind of design, artistic work as well. Creating, I wasn't the best at reading and communicating. I was not the best. That's something that I've literally learned and gathered. And like I said, you can pivot to whatever you want and you can learn any skill you want. And that's a skill.
I say that's one of like your biggest talents. Right?
Right? Like it's absolutely amazing. Right. And like, it's one of the things I came to Chicago with not so much of the ability of. And that's one thing I've been like trying a lot in. It actually came out a lot more. And I was like, wow, like, you mean I can communicate with absolutely anybody on the street or anybody in content? And that's another thing I'll say right now. And that's why I'm so bullish on content creation, especially for young individuals, is when you're talking in front of a camera or you're writing, typing out content, whether you're making tweets, blogs, threads, absolutely anything, you're getting better at your vernacular, your communication, your verbiage, being concise.
Yes.
And that relates to almost anything. And storytelling. Storytelling cannot be replaced by artificial intelligence. Like that's one of the biggest things. There's a professor out of New York, NYU, that said storytelling is one of like the most key things that are going to set you apart in the future. And all that can be made through content. And guess what the risk of content is? Time. That's it. It's literally just time. Like literally, like if you're young, it's, you can make content. The only thing that holds me back is ego. Yes. And I'm so happy I reduced my ego so much more. Older people say they just care less what other people say. And then you start realizing like, oh, you're right. Care less what other people say. And yeah, you can always just pivot into whatever you want to pivot into. Just kind of like use a bridge from what you did and tie it to where you want to go.
Yeah.
So you're like, you have like, somewhat of a leeway, but again, I think that's what some people don't understand is like, dude, you can pivot into whatever the hell you want.
Yeah. Cause I would even say like, and I don't know if you agree with this, but your persona, your brand, kind of like your disposition would go against the typical stereotype of what people would imagine a Division I athlete ends up becoming.
Yeah.
Like if I were to ask someone off the street, okay, I'm giving you an individual who is a Division I athlete all throughout college at Ball State. After college, they became a content creator. Tell me what you think this content creator is like, what their content is about, or what type of persona they hold. Mm-hmm. And I think that you've been able to almost reconstruct yourself in the way that you wanted your brand to be, irrelevant of what your past consisted of, right? And for you, that's like from D1 football player to who you are today. But for a lot of other people, I think they fall short on this when it comes to like seeing how old they are and looking at that and then thinking that they're too old for something or too young for something. But I think you're right when it comes to like the main reason people will be held back from starting to create content is because of their ego and also like just caring too much about what other people think. I mean, for me, that was the case. It's still hard. You know what I mean? Like all these people that were my friends, I already know they're making fun of this shit. Like my shit will get sent to 83 different people. You know what I mean? Every reel I make, I'm like, yeah, I know what's going on here, but you kind of just got to not give a fuck. But also only consider the opinions that matter.
Yeah.
The only opinions and advice that should ever matter is the ones from above. The ones from below, why the fuck would you care, right? Like if someone that's doing 10 times better than you or doing what you wish you could be doing one day tells you X, Y, and Z, then you could consider it. But those are never going to be the people who pull you back, the people who push you down or make fun of it or any of that, right? Like I probably have the least followers amongst our entire friend group, but I get nothing but support from you guys, knowing you for a lot less time than any of my previous friends who are just like, this is lame as hell. You know what I mean? So yeah, like you got to just not give a fuck about what anyone thinks, like move past the humiliation. How did you first transition from like thinking you were going to go to the NFL to creating content, building a brand for yourself and moving to a big city like Chicago?
Now time to think back. So I would say that I didn't do pro day to start because I was like, you know what? I kind of want to dive into the game of business. I felt like that was like the best decision for me at that point in time. So from there, that was a decision like, all right, what city I wanted to go to a big city. I feel like there was more opportunity, more people to talk to, more diversity. I was striving for a ton of diversity, not just skin tone, skin color, but like background, where they come from, like language, everything, financially, everything. So it was there. And then I was like, all right, so what city do I want to choose? I was like, I don't know if I want to stay in Illinois. I feel like a lot of people in Illinois are in the Midwest are kind of relatively the same values, same everything. So I want a culture shock. But I met up with one of my friends that lived in Chicago, and he was telling me like, oh, it's so diverse. It's so like fun, entertaining. You get to meet people that, you know, can work at a big firm. You can meet people that are doing complete entrepreneurial activities. You can meet people that are amazing that work at restaurants, and everybody's like literally working with each other, like doing fun things. And it's like not like, oh, you're this little person. Oh, you're too big for that. Like it was just so much abundance of knowledge, people, and opportunity. I was like, all right, you know, it's close enough. So might as well try it out. So I was like, I need to get into the city. So I do work in like an accounting finance job right now too. And that, it just like exposes you to so much when you move to a city. Like I'll say, if you're in your 20s, whatever it is, like get out first, go meet a real estate agent. They will put you on a lot of different friends. They're very active in communicating and they're great in community. So one of my really close friends, Niso, she introduced me to a lot of other friends, and that's what kind of like put me into the friend group. One of my first friends, Hunter, it was somebody in Chicago that I've met up with for like the first time. That's another thing. One thing that he told me that was like, all right, this is like why I kept like really talking to you as well, is I hit him up on social media, which a lot of us always do. And he was like, all right, slide, like the next day or something like that. I slid. Like I was like, all right, yeah, right?
You gotta go, yeah.
You gotta go. It's like immediately go. Don't give the excuse of like, oh, I have this. Like, yeah, like if you have something that you have to do, like you have to meet with family or anything, of course. Like you can't like tell somebody. But if it's like a bullshit excuse, like, oh man, I can't like da 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 da. Like,
tired.
Yeah, people don't want to hear that. People are like, all right, then never mind, because like they're in motion too. Like a lot of people are in motion. You got to respect other people's time. But that's what he's like. All right, that's set out. And also, I came with nothing to like take away from them. Like that was one thing I was like talking to. It was funny. It was because I met Renzo through him as well. Is like, oh, no, you just try to provide value in some shape or form, whether like, you know, like as we know now and everything, it's like provide value, and then people are going to actually kind of like you more, of course, because like you're not just trying to like take anything from them. But I was like, I'll say this is one thing that doesn't make sense to me quite yet, is I think the most valuable thing that you can get is information. Yeah. Like even beyond money, information gets you a lot further. And that's why some people are like, oh, work for cheap, work for free, and for certain people and everything. Is information is so fun and like lovely, and also community. Those two things are like amazing to get. So like provide value in some shape or form, whether that's like, it doesn't have to be such a business thing too. Yeah. You know, because like some people,
I think people just go ahead. I was going to say they get too caught up on it.
Yeah.
Like what value can I provide?
Like what value? Like, do you need this or that? It's like, maybe sometimes like it's hard to find out what people need for sure, because you don't know what they already have access and don't have access to. But if you try different things over and over again, and you're like, oh, like they actually like that I had a connection at a restaurant with this individual and stuff like that, then that can help, you know? So anything that can help. And that's literally the funny part is like, that can help with somebody with me, but that's also the mindset I have with like people that are way ahead of me. You know, it's not like I'm sitting here being like, I'm at the top. No, like, hell no. Hell no. Like there's so much more people that are like way above all of us and everything, that we're going to use the same tactics to, you know, work with them or get their attention as well. It's not like, an ending thing. So whatever I'm like preaching, I'm also like, I'm actively trying to implement as well. So see, that's, and like you did too, like, you know?
Yeah, bro. I think you just got to keep it simple, stupid. Like a lot of people think that if they're reaching out to someone with over 100,000 followers on Instagram or whatever, and they're trying to figure out what value can they provide, like they think that they got to help them like figure out a way to make more money or some shit, when sometimes it's so simple. Like I remember like literally spending time thinking about how can I provide value to Jordan, right? And this was before like we'd been able to cultivate our relationship. you didn't really know who I was or whether or not I could be of value to you or even if you should be friends with me, right? So I just try to understand you a little bit more through your content, which is a very transparent content style. And I said like, okay, great. So this guy like loves being productive, you know, like loves being in an environment that kind of creates the energy that the productive energy, right? So I reached out to you, yo, can I get you a coffee and you know, can I get you a cup of coffee or can I take you out to breakfast? But more than that, I was like, hey, why don't you come over to my building? You know, like we could have a workout in the morning and then have a work session upstairs. It's not like I helped you solve anything.
There you go. That's value right there.
I offered something that you're like, that fucking sounds awesome. Like,
yeah,
I'd love to show up and work out with you at Saturday in a private gym and then go upstairs and work for 4 hours. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then through that, all you have to do is create an opportunity for the interaction to make sense to the other person. That opportunity was an interaction that made sense for you. You're like, why would I not want to do that? Then in the interaction itself, you just be yourself. You know, like I remember one of the key things is like when we went upstairs to work after we worked out together, I read my vision out loud and you were like, what the fuck? What are you doing? I'm like, oh, I read my vision out loud every day. And then like a week later, you had texted me and that like, if you seen my smile when I read that text, you would have been blown away because I was just happy as fuck. Like, damn, bro, he saw me do something. Like I wasn't trying to impress you or nothing. I was just doing my thing, you know? And you talked about how you started to implement it and there you go. That's value. Like that was my way of providing value indirectly by directly just trying to create a space where the interaction made sense to you.
Mm-hmm. I just want to clarify. So he wrote out what his exact vision was and what he wants to do, how he's going to do it. And it was so clear and concise that I had a movie in my head of how that's going to happen. And I was like, oh, wow, like that's actually can be very, very helpful. You know, it can be, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, you know, write out your vision and everything. And some people can think it's all played out. It can be corny, but no, if something helps like that, like we said earlier, if something is going to help you, do it. And it was such a clear vision for him. And I'm telling you, it was one of those areas that I was like, oh, wow, like I envisioned it in my head. So I know if he's envisioning it in his head that, you know, whenever he has like downtime and his brain's kind of relaxed and he's, you know, if he's ever scrolling or anything, he can go back and read that every morning and it resets. So like, oh, you're right. I was focused on this. There's so many distractions that kind of distracted me and detoured me from that thought. But now I'm back on that thought because I wrote it down. And I was like, okay, cool. Now that logically made sense in my mind. So I was like, hey, you know what? I'll do that too, because it put the picture in my mind, and you can't do anything without having like a picture in your mind, because it's like you can't make stuff up out of thin air. So it was one of those nice things. And you know, again, if you want to think about like being all corny and writing stuff down, he did it one time and he could just read it off in say 5 minutes or whatever, and that's all it takes to get him primed. That's another thing, getting primed for what he wants to do and what he has to do. So
right,
why
it just
not?
like reframes my mind the right way to start like going after whatever I want to go after in that sitting. But like, bro, for you to hear me reading my vision out loud and for you to be able to picture in your head me accomplishing that vision, imagine what it does for me.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Over and over again.
So 2 things. Number 1, my vision has changed since that day. I've rewritten it. And in the vision that I read on that day, this was happening. This podcast was happening.
Oh, yeah.
Before it ever even existed. Number 2, I always say this. The only thing worse than being blind is having sight but not having a vision. And back to the whole concept of journaling and assessment and awareness, one of the things I identified when I had a shaky day where maybe it was a good day but I wasn't as productive, I didn't read my vision. And identifying that let me know that when I do read my vision, it frames my mind to be able to prioritize and focus on the things that allow me to accomplish that vision, or in other words, bring it to life, right? So what are you trying to accomplish with your content? Like, what is your purpose when it comes to your content? And then tell me a little bit about what you've been working on recently with this whole run club. And you don't got to give it all away, but just tease it for a little bit, because I think it's such a valuable opportunity for anyone, whether they have 0 followers or 1 million followers. So let's start with like, what is your content? What's the purpose for your content? Like, why are you doing it?
So I get that question all the time. They're like, because people get intrigued and they're like, okay, I'm interested, but what are you doing? And it's like so amusing. So I would say right now is there's a lot of focus you can have on content. When you get to studying what social media and content can do for you, it's absolutely amazing. You get to see why people like My First Million, Sean Perry, and Sam Parr. Okay. I was like, I can't forget his name. He's from St. Louis, Midwest. Sean Perry and Sam Parr, and like other people like Mark Zuckerberg, like they're making content, guys. That means they're putting their time and attention on areas that they can put in running their business, which this is running the business, but like they're putting this into being in front of a camera and creating content because media scales. And that is something, if you guys read a book, the Almanac by Naval Ravikant, he'll talk about media and how it's one of the high leverage things that you can get into in some shape or form. And that's an area of content. So there's so many things that can come out of it. You can run businesses, you can be a creator, you can get income, you can make friends, you can get community, you can get fulfillment, you can get a lot of things out of just simply creating content. And I would also say that's why I jumped into it so early, like quote unquote early, but maybe it was just on time. And I'm building out my personal flywheel. So this is something I kind of recommend a lot of people to do. And I would say a flywheel is like a circle, but like imagine a lot of nodes. So nodes are like dots are on like each of the sides and also kind of like scattered in the middle. And it's kind of like your mind mapping. So I'm finding out all the areas that I can fit into that flywheel, and then how I can maximize what I'm doing. So right now, that is creating content for myself, and I collaborate and work with some other individuals as well. But right now I'm just like focused on creating my own content heavily. And obviously there's reasons behind that and like areas that I've explored. I'm like, okay, I think this is one of the best things I can do for now, but it comes in sprints.
Yeah.
So that's a huge thing too. It's like, all right, I'm going to take this sprint right now, and then I'm going to assess and maybe pivot that sprint in the future. But that's like my main focus to like for the next like probably few months for now. And then there's so many things that are come about of it, but there's also things I can predict and plan, but there's a ton more that are like so unpredictable. That's like, oh wow, I just got a meeting with this individual and we're actually going to pursue this opportunity because this is like one of the most high leverage opportunities from my like understanding, and it changes. But
I love that. You've always had like a very aesthetic and attractive and peaceful form of content creation. Like I feel like a lot of people will be drawn towards it because it's unique and it's different, and it's very natural. And like for anyone out there that wants to start creating content, like you don't have to figure out what your content's supposed to be about. You don't have to figure out like what you think you're an expert at so that you can start talking to people about it. All you have to do is document. Don't create, right? Before you try to figure out what you're supposed to be creating, focus on documenting. I heard this at a Funnel Hacking Live, which was an event for Russell Brunson, and I can't remember the guy's name, but it was a couple. The girl's name was Annika. I'll never forget it. She says, document, don't create. And I have a video journal from that day of me walking out of the conference in that moment. She said that. I got up and walked out and hit record, and I was like, yo, I don't know what I'm doing or who I'm talking to right now, but I just heard document, don't create, and I wanted to start documenting, so one day I'm going to be on that stage. And I haven't gotten there yet, but like I can't wait to be on that stage one day and play that video for every single person watching that's about to hear what I have to say in the speech. So document, don't create. You don't have to figure it all out. All you have to do is start, just take action, which has been a principle that we've talked about a lot throughout this show. All right, before we wrap up, because this is something that I don't want these people to miss out on. No matter where you are in the country or maybe even the world, this is something that is going to be valuable and beneficial for every single one of you, whether you're rich or you're poor or you're skilled or you're not skilled. Tell them about the project you've been working on.
The run?
The run.
So yeah, there's a lot of cities that have run clubs, and I think it's one of the most healthiest things. I love this trend that's going on. And doing a lot of trend studies and everything, I think it's because a lot of people are diving more into like what's healthy for you, and also it's it doesn't cost too much. It's effort, dog. Like that's all it takes, and I think it's something that everybody should get into, at least dive a little bit into it. Obviously I played sports for a lot of my life. I'd never enjoyed running. Of course, that was quote unquote punishment, but in our sports, but also really not too much of a punishment. Like obviously you do it and you're going to have to like find a way to love it at some point in time. but starting a Saturday 8 a.m. run club. And I think I know Chicago has a few run clubs too. I kind of want this to be a little bit different. Obviously everybody's going to say that, but more so relaxed, like enjoyable. And it's going to be community based, content based. And it's not just for creators, to make that so clear. Cause like, I know some things like that I do or like community based that like, oh, is it just for creators? I'm like, no, this is for anybody that just wants to like, just have fun and enjoy and just like come together like community based wise. And I want this to be more raw, so more just like relaxed, enjoy yourself, come as you want. Like you can come in a hoodie, long pants if you want, or you can come in shorts and a no shirt tank top, male, female, as I don't care. Anything in between does not matter. Come with a breath and come with your legs and shoes and just get ready to run. And it's more so like, I don't care what your body type is. Like sometimes, like I work out, not aggressively or over. I'm not a trainer or anything. I know a lot of information. But like this is for anybody to just come out and enjoy. I think it is so key. It's something that I just want to do to like get the right people together. Cause it's like the individuals, like, you can try going out the night before and drinking a lot and showing up. Like I've done that in college for football, not for games, we'll say that, but just for like lifting. I've done that before on a Sunday lift, and that is hard as hell.
Hell yeah.
And you might hurt and you probably won't drink again that Friday night, but it's mainly like for the individuals that, like I feel like I want to do a little bit more something in my life. And I just want to get a healthy feeling, healthy start to a Saturday morning. One thing, if you have any problems with drinking or if you want to drink less, one thing that we're like talking about, me and the person that's also running it too, Maya, pull it up real quick.
Just to let you guys know, from behind the scenes, cameras off, I've tried to convince this guy to fucking monetize it, like charge people for it. Literally on the way here was trying to convince him like, yo, you got to charge for this. What are you talking about? And he refused. He like,
it's community based.
He literally just keeps telling me no. I'm like, all right, well, my business mindset's like, you're fucking tweaking. But yeah, he doesn't want to charge. He literally just wants to give people an opportunity to connect with like-minded individuals in an environment where they're also developing themselves. And that just goes back to how genuine and true he is. So if you're going to turn away an opportunity like this when you also have the capability to take advantage of it, at that point, you're just stupid. Honestly, like, so my bad, but get back to your quote.
I love it. And like the best thing about it too is like, everybody has like 24 hours in a day, and it's that time where people go like, hey, you want to meet up, or like, hey, you want to do this? It's like, it's that time to actually, we can talk after the run, obviously. We're doing a little networking or whatever you want to call it, just socialization before, and then like some after. But it's that time, if somebody wants to meet up with either me or somebody else like that happens to be at the run, hey, catch me at that run so I can, talk to you, and you. It's just efficient. It's kind of like the flywheel method where I'm put something into the flywheel that I'm getting multiple things out.
Yeah.
And it's just going to be so helpful. And then Maya also, I'm working on this run club with her, and she provided so much, like she off rip provided so much value. She's like, hey, like these are examples, these are some things we can do, and I know she's interested, and I know she can pull some people into it as well. So I was like, oh my God, yeah, of course, like I'll just do it, like I'll partner up with her and do it. And that's obviously awesome. You encouraged me, and some other people encouraged me, and I don't care if it's 5 or 500 people, I'm still gonna get value out of it. Other people are gonna get value out of it, because it's literally waking up early on a Saturday morning and running.
Right.
And so like that's it's just so beneficial. And also, if you want to pick my brain, I'm giving this opportunity, right? And I know other people, I'm going to be like, hey, come slide and everything. So I think it's just a healthy thing to do. So
yeah, man. The last angle I'll give to this run club before we let you guys go is that, look, if you're someone who maybe has already taken steps towards trying to better yourself, like you quit drinking or you quit smoking or you quit partying, I think the sad part about that a lot of the times is that you think that you have to be in this bubble where you start to go about your life on your own. Like you talk about how, man, I quit drinking, so I don't know where I'm going to start meeting girls now. Like you basically think that not doing any of those things means that you're not going to have an opportunity to socialize anymore. But the fact of the matter is that you're not the only person on earth that's doing those things or living their life that way. You've just never been exposed to those other people because you were always doing the things that the people you don't want to be surrounded by were doing, right? So this is an opportunity where, like, if you've been trying to develop yourself and you feel like you're alone right now, which is like self-development is a lonely journey for most. This is how you can go against that and make sure you're doing it with a community of very like-minded individuals that don't judge anyone for anything, that love everyone and deeply just want to receive value from everyone. So you heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. It's JD Will. He gave us a lot of value today. Hopefully you have everything you need to try to become a better version of yourself. And if you're looking for some people to do that with, now you can join his run club as well. So Jordan, I couldn't thank you enough, my man. Any last words for the audience before we let you go?
I just think the raw and authenticity of this podcast was really nice, and I appreciate your time, and I can't wait to see your journey. And I'm so happy you're being consistent with content. That's one thing, is being consistent is hard, but it's the best thing you can possibly do, and he's doing it.
I'm gonna get through that war, baby. All right, my man. Thank you so much. We appreciate it, brother.